Hey, listener. This time we're doing a deep dive on some really different topics, but they're all super interesting. We've got articles on social media and mental health, a possible battery revolution, and even some wild string theory stuff. Ready to have your mind blown?
Always up for a good mind bending.
Okay, so let's start with this whole debate about social media and mental health. Zuckerberg's getting grilled in the Senate. Everyone's talking about a crisis. But one of the articles you sent actually says there isn't a global mental health crisis. It's kind of throwing me for a loop, to be honest.
Yeah, it's definitely a thought-provoking claim.
Hmm.
And you know what? The article isn't entirely wrong. When you look at the big picture, overall mental health hasn't drastically changed.
So no need to panic.
Well, not so fast. If we zoom in a little, there's a concerning trend among young people, particularly girls, especially around that 10 to 13 age range, and mostly in westernized countries. It seems like their mental well-being has taken a hit.
And that's where everyone points to social media, right?
Exactly. And it makes sense, right? It's a huge part of their lives.
It's funny you mentioned that because, well, my kids just got their first smartphones, and I have to admit, I'm constantly worried about how much time they're spending scrolling and what it's doing to them. Jonathan Haidt's work on this has been really eye-opening.
Oh, absolutely. He's done some fascinating research.
Though even Haidt says we don't have definitive proof that social media is the main culprit. It's like, where's the smoking gun?
It's a tough one because those early studies back in 2019, 2020, they really didn't find a strong link between social media use and mental health issues. But then,
Then?
a 2022 study kind of threw a wrench into things.
Oh, this is getting interesting. What'd they find?
Well, this study did find a correlation between more social media use and lower life satisfaction. But, and this is important, it was only in that specific group of girls we talked about, those 10 to 13-year-olds.
So, still not a universal thing.
Right. And even within that group, social media was a relatively small factor compared to things like bullying or family issues, things that we already know have a huge impact on well-being.
So it's like we can't just blame everything on the screen.
Exactly. It's more nuanced than that. It reminds me of that deep dive we did on echo chambers. Context is everything.
Okay, so we've gone from social media dilemmas to, well, the entire universe. String theory, dark dimensions, maybe even a new way to think about dark matter. My brain's already hurting, and I love this stuff.
Yeah, you're really diving into the deep end of the pool with this one.
But that's what makes it so fascinating, right? Even the people who study this for a living are like, we're still figuring it out. It's not like some solved equation in a textbook.
Exactly. It's an active area of research, which is always exciting.
So string theory in a nutshell, it's about trying to unify all the fundamental forces of nature. Gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces all in one elegant theory.
Exactly. It's like the holy grail of physics.
But here's the thing. To make the math work, string theory needs extra dimensions. Not just the up, down, left, right, forward, back we're used to. We're talking extra spatial dimensions that we haven't even seen.
Yeah, and those extra dimensions can be a bit of a mind bender. It's like, okay, if they're there, where are they hiding?
Right, like am I going to bump into a dark dimension on my way to the fridge? It just seems so out there.
I know, but think of it this way. Imagine you've got, like, ants living on a piece of paper. Their entire world is that flat two-dimensional surface. Okay.
Like, I'm with you.
They wouldn't be able to perceive anything outside of that paper, any up or down
Yeah,
beyond their flat world.
right.
We, on the other hand, we can see that third dimension, the one that's perpendicular to their paper world. String theory is kind of saying that we might be like those ants, completely oblivious to these extra dimensions that are curled up around us, but way, way smaller than we can even imagine.
So these extra dimensions, they've always been theoretical, right? Just something in the equations, not something we could actually measure or detect.
Yeah, until potentially now. This is what's so wild about this new research. They're suggesting that one of these extra dimensions, it might not be so small after all.
Wait, what? So we might actually be able to measure it.
That's the idea. We're talking about a dimension that's maybe the size of like a grain of sand. So still incredibly tiny.
Okay, a grain of sand. That's still mind-blowingly small. But I get it. It's not subatomic tiny. But how do they even begin to wrap their heads around measuring something like that? And what does it even have to do with dark matter?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
You know, all this talk about hidden dimensions makes me wish I had a battery that could charge in a hidden dimension. Like, instantly. My phone's always dying on me.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I feel you. Those charging times can be brutal. But hey, maybe those faster batteries aren't so far off. Remember that article you sent about the lithium-indium batteries developed at Cornell?
Oh, yeah. The ones claiming super fast charging. That's the dream right there.
Right. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's break down why our current lithium-ion batteries, the ones in everything from our phones to electric cars, are stuck with that annoying charging lag. It all boils down to how they work at the most basic level.
Lay it on me.
Okay, so imagine like a bustling city. It has two sides, the anode and cathode, right? Those are basically the positive and negative terminals of your battery.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Now, think of lithium ions as tiny commuters trying to get from one side to the other.
Trying to beat the rush hour traffic.
Exactly. And the electrolyte, that's the street they're all trying to squeeze through. So charging and discharging the battery is basically just directing the flow of these lithium-ion commuters. The faster they can move through that street, the faster your battery charges.
Makes sense. So with our current lithium-ion batteries, those commuters are stuck in traffic.
Pretty much. They've got their limitations. And that's where this whole indium thing comes in. These researchers at Cornell, they're experimenting with a lithium-indium combo that basically aims to widen that street and clear out those traffic jams.
So those lithium ions can, like, zoom back and forth.
Exactly. Indium has this special property called get this, a low Migossian energy barrier,
Gee.
right? But basically, it means there's less resistance for those ions as they're moving through. It's like a superhighway for those lithium-ion commuters.
Okay, so less traffic, faster charging. Got it.
Plus, indium's got another trick up its sleeve, a high exchange current density, meaning it can handle a lot of those ions moving quickly without, like, overheating, which some other materials would do.
So are we talking like charging our phones in minutes instead of hours?
That's the goal. They've actually gotten it down to a 2-minute charge time in the lab.
Whoa, okay, that's insane. But, and I know there's always a but. What's the catch? Right.
You're right to be cautious. It's super promising, but it's still early days. One thing is these new batteries, they don't have the same energy density as our good old lithium-ion batteries,
Cheating.
meaning they might not hold as much charge. You might be able to juice up your phone in 2 minutes, but it might only last you, say, a couple of hours.
So a trade-off.
Exactly. And there are other hurdles too, like how tough are these batteries in the real world? How do they handle different temperatures? And of course, there's the whole issue of indium itself. It's not exactly the most abundant material on Earth.
Right. Sustainability is always a factor.
Absolutely. But it's still exciting to think about a future where charging times aren't a constant headache. Although it does make you wonder, is charging speed really the main thing holding us back when it comes to things like electric vehicles? I mean, people are worried about range anxiety, running out of juice on a long trip.
That's a really good point. I mean, it's like with the whole social media debate or even those mind-bending extra dimensions, we have to be careful not to get so fixated on one thing that we miss the bigger picture. There are so many factors at play.
Exactly. And that's what makes these deep dives so interesting. It's not about finding all the answers. It's about asking the right questions and being open to new possibilities.
Well said. And who knows what we'll uncover next time. Thanks for joining me on this wild ride. Until next time, keep those questions coming.